The move to South Bank will see the ABC make its new home in the state's cultural precinct, while the corporation's old premises at Toowong is lying idle. Peter McCutcheon spoke to the ABC's Managing Director Mark Scott at the State Library, next door to the new site.
Mark Scott, 5 years ago, you'd recently been appointed as Managing Director of the ABC and you had a very big decision to make. What to do with the Toowong site and the suspected cancer cluster. It must have been a few sleepless nights.
Well, you know, I think one of the great things we did was employ Bruce Armstrong as a consultant to advise us, because it was really very soon after I arrived that it became clear that there was deep concern about the numbers of incidents of breast cancer. But we didn't know, it was a mystery, and to bring together that eminent panel, and what I said to the team in Brisbane at the time, well, I didn't understand it, they didn't understand it, let's find the best people we can and follow their advice. And so when that advice landed, that we really did have a dramatically high incidence of breast cancer, funnily enough, the decision then was quite straightforward. I don't think we could have reasonably expected people to continue working in those conditions. Couldn't have expected women to go back and work at that site. And so then it was that chaotic upheaval of where do we put people? How do you continue to work? And it was an extraordinary team effort. And I think the sleepless nights started once we'd made the decision, and then we worked out, well, what does that decision mean and how are we going to deal with it?
But if I can just dwell for a moment on making that decision, was it really straightforward, given that there was no plausible biological explanation for the cluster?
The initial reports we got were just so dramatic that the odds that it was chance was so high. I just don't think there was a way that you could have expected people to work there. As I've said previously, I learned quite a lot in this process by going and speaking to staff and talking to them. And I understood that there were many women who were frightened of going to work because they thought that going to work would make them sick. And I think once we had that report by that eminent panel, I think the decision was pretty clear that we needed to move. And then the question was, well, where are we going to move to and how are we going to do television and radio and news? Because we had to move pretty quickly, and we did.
But one thing that report did touch on is it could be something like shift work. It might have nothing to do with the site.
Yeah.
Did that weigh on your mind?
It did. It still didn't change the final finding of the report, and still 5 years later it is a mystery. You know, one of the things the report demonstrated is that it could be chance, and 1,000,000 to 1 chances do happen, you know. People hit 2 holes in 1, people get struck by lightning, people win lotto. Good news, bad news, long odds happen. But boy, it was a deeply concerning report.
You did take the action. ABC had to leave the site suddenly. In hindsight, could have the ABC been better prepared for this? Because after all, programs were thrown into turmoil for months later.
Look, I think we did a great job staying on air. The advice that we had in the lead up to the final report was that there'd never been a finding of a breast cancer cluster. The report and the finding was a surprise to us. I think it was a surprise to everyone, really.
But when the ABC first commissioned that scientific report, it must have had some inkling that it could have said, get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Why wasn't there planning then?
Oh no, there were some discussions and there was some scenario planning, but irrespective of that, when the decision finally came that we needed to be out now, or we felt that we needed to be out now, we needed to move pretty quickly, and we did. And I don't think it was turmoil, of course, because where hundreds of people worked one day, they couldn't work the next. But we pretty quickly found places for them to go to. We pretty quickly moved that technology.
What's happening to the Toowong site now?
Well, we hold that site and we'll eventually sell it. We did extensive testing on that site even after all the staff went, and Bruce Armstrong helped us with that. We never found anything untoward on that site at all. None of the testing showed up anything, none of the soil samples, nothing in its history. So it's there, and when the market is right, we'll sell that site, and the proceeds of that site are designated to help fund the new building here in South Bank.
Yes, you were saying that we needed to move to a new home as quickly as possible. Well, it's been 5 years in the wilderness. Why is it taking so long?
Well, we had a bit of bad luck along the way. One of the sites we identified, and we're really well down the road to development, we finally decided was unsuitable for us. There were things in the soil samples that emerged that we were unhappy with given our history, and we made a decision to stop. It's been hard on our staff to wait, but we've got a great result at the end. This building will last here for 50 years, and it's in the premier location that we could find. It's actually in a far better location for the ABC than the location where we were going to build, but this wasn't available at the time we were originally looking. So it was serendipitous in a sense, and it's been a wait for our staff, but well worth the wait, I think, when they get into this marvellous new building.
Mark Scott, thank you.
Thanks, Peter.